we are good to go. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to the Soul Bubble Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras. As every week, I'm joined by my co-host, Glenn Highcove. How are you doing, man?
Doing all right, hanging in there, ready to talk about another missing persons case.
Right. We're going to be talking about Lars Mittank. So, right off the bat, a lot of people have this question: how do you pronounce his last name? So, for I don't know, just for reference, we're gonna go with Mittank, right? Like not
Yeah,
Mittank,
yeah, Matank.
right? Perfect. So, I'll give a brief story of what happened to this man because I'm pretty sure that most of our audience already know what actually happened. So, we, I guess, should focus the podcast more about like giving our own theories and maybe delving into things that have not been covered as widely, at least in the English language, because there's a whole bunch of German stuff on this case, that unfortunately probably neither of us could decipher, because I don't think neither of us speak German, right?
Nope, not here.
Right, same night here as well. So okay, Lars Mittank. So this man that you are seeing on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, was a German man who disappeared on July 8th, 2014. He disappeared near Varna airport in Varna, Bulgaria. So Mittank was vacationing in Golden Sands, which immediately I thought was funny, a funny name for a Bulgarian resort, because that sounds like something in Miami. Like Bulgarians, it's Golden Sands is Varna. You know what I'm saying?
I almost guarantee there must be a Golden Sand somewhere in Florida.
But that's the thing. When I actually Google Golden Sands, like the Bulgarian stuff comes up first. So maybe they did their SEO work on that one.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, in Golden Sands, Lars, he was involved in a fight. And obviously, because of the fight, he had some sort of an injury to his ear. He was unable to fly home with his friends for health reasons. So Mittank was witnessed acting strangely while alone in Bulgaria, and days later disappeared in the forest around Varna airport for reasons unknown. So we'll get into this. First of all, this was a Wikipedia write-up, so from what I've gathered, there is no forest around Varna airport. So I'm just gonna quickly, if we're gonna get into this, I think we should get into the details immediately.
Yeah. I was scoping.
I'm gonna
It's funny because I
jump to this place, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, man, but I don't see a big forest anywhere, like patches of trees, but and we're also gonna show the video because there's this obviously I'm pretty sure all of our audience already has seen the footage. But we will at least I will make some pretty interesting cases that I don't really buy the whole forest disappearance situation, because maybe there's police facts, police documentation that actually links up with this theory. But from what we have from the footage, he didn't seem like he was running towards a forest. He almost seemed like he was running back to the airport landing strip, because the direction where the footage cuts off, he was not actually going to no forest. He was running back towards the plains. So I don't know what to make of that, man.
Oh, that's actually maybe I'll sit on. I'll stick a pin in that because
if you wanted to say something, then
yeah,
please do.
let me think about that for a second. So I hadn't even thought about that. What about?
Right.
You ever hear about that where it doesn't happen? It doesn't happen that often, but it happens enough where somebody, for whatever reason, will try to sneak on a plane, and the way they do it is they try to go up into the landing gear, and then,
but
sometimes
right.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the person survives or they die, but they don't fall out. But then suppose they fall out. I mean, you might never find them, right? They might just fall out over, especially if the plane puts this gear out over the ocean or something on the way. I don't know. That's just a weird thought.
I don't know.
It's kind of weird. The one thing I thought of was on that same map, because I was checking out, I was doing this, I had the same thought. I'm like, let me see, just so I can be a little bit informed, what when you look at the airport, yeah, there's there's some patches of woods. Like further north, it looked like there was something kind of substantial, but yeah, like you said, it's not like the deep, dark forest that like no one ever wanders. You know, they just looks like kind of like little parks and stuff.
Not like
there, right?
Mora Mori, right, where there was like almost like a clear indication that there's like a whole foresty area. Like this is patchy, you know. This is patchy. Most of the lands are, as you can see, it's like farmland, you know.
Yeah. What about to the south? That was the other thing I was thinking is, whenever you have a body of water, it was like that other case we had.
Right.
What's her name? Colden, the lady that disappeared downtown.
Oh yeah.
St. Louis, whatever it was. Yeah.
I forgot her name, unfortunately, but yeah, that was
Phoenix Colden. Yeah.
That was a fun
whenever
case,
whenever I see a body of water, like a river, something where like maybe the body, someone could end up in water and then get swept away from the scene. That was the only thing. I mean, you know, obviously you'd think they would wash up somewhere and somebody would notice, but you never know how busy the beach areas are. That was my only other thought, was maybe if the person got turned around somehow. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
I mean, from what I can see right now, like maybe I wasn't completely correct, because there was like, I'd actually call this a forest, you know. Like obviously people who are not watching this on YouTube, I suggest you watch this on the YouTube page, because we are showing the map of the general surroundings, and yeah, it definitely seems like there's like I would call this a forest, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a
big
forest.
It makes you wonder, like, I mean, do they have, I don't know, do you guys have like wild animals like bears and wolves and stuff?
No, we
in
don't.
Lithuania?
We don't. I don't think there are any like in Bulgaria. I think they sort of skipped past Lithuania. I think it's mainly Russia, parts of Ukraine, most of Belarus, and then for some reason they're also out in Slovakia, Czechia, southern Poland, because near the mountains. But you know, like Bulgaria, from what I've gathered, is I could be completely wrong here, but it seems like the land mass it's pretty flat, and in like these flat land masses like bears and like those really wild animals, they don't really seem to like stay for long. So I don't know, man. Maybe.
Yeah, it looks pretty developed. I mean, developed in terms of like just everything's been cut down and turned into farmland or something, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So let's, I guess, delve into the story of how Lars actually got to the situation where he was caught, on camera acting crazy. So before we show that footage, I think we need to retract a little bit. So let me just get my notes, because I have written down a few interesting details. So I have it on my phone. Just give me one more second. Right. So we have it. So basically, right off the bat, Lars, he was a smart guy. Like, that's what I've gathered. He wasn't your average. I don't want to like name any like professions here, so no one gets offended. But like, he was a power station worker, like, or an engineer or something like that. I couldn't really find his exact position, what he did in that power plant, but he probably was a really smart dude. Like, that's what I've gathered. I mean, how else could you work in the power plant unless you're, Homer Simpson or something like that? Right. We have the power plant right here. The first thing that I can see from this power plant, so this is like a better image of it. It's not what I actually anticipated when I was researching this case before I actually looked into it. It's, I was sort of like thinking that this power plant was going to be like really massive, really big, like a nuclear power station, something like that. It just seemed like I guess mid-sized power plant, like maybe electricity power plant, something like that. It doesn't seem that big, I mean, obviously it's pretty big, but it's not what I imagined in my head, right?
Do you know what kind of plant it is? Does it burn like gas or coal or oil or something?
It's one of two coal power stations in the city of Wilhelmshaven. I can't really pronounce that, I guess, name.
I'm gonna say it's Wilhelmshaven.
Right, something like that.
I'm just guessing. Yeah.
So it's around this. So it's in the northern west part of Germany. So a quick disclaimer for people who are not necessarily really that knowledgeable in German geography, since since the Soviet Union times, the eastern part has always been a little bit behind the western part. So Lars was from the good part of Germany, where like the wealthy part of Germany. In fact, northern west area of Germany is the wealthiest place in the whole of Germany. So he seemed like he had his life in a really, really good trajectory. He had a good job, probably a really well-paying job, and he just decided to go on a road trip. Well, not necessarily a road trip. They took a flight to Bulgaria, but yep. So he basically took this flight to Bulgaria with 4 of his friends, right? What else do we have here? Yeah, so Mitank was on a vacation with 4 friends at Golden Sands, as I've mentioned before, a really interesting name for a resort in Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, resorts would on a regular basis would probably be called like Voish, something like that, not Golden Sands. But I guess it gets the job done in terms of attracting new visitors. So basically, this seaside resort on the coast of the Black Sea in Bulgaria is a popular and relatively low-cost holiday destination for those in nearby European countries who want to take a break and soak up the sun. They arrived at their destination on the 30th of June 2014. Let me quickly jump to the map. This is Hotel Viva Club. It's basically in the Golden Sands area. So as you can see, this whole patch of, I guess, real estate by the coastline of the Black Sea is essentially Golden Sands. And right next to it, we have Varna. So this is the airport. So just for reference reasons, it's fairly close. Like what do you think? How much distance is it from Varna airport to Golden Sands? Like maybe like what, 15 kilometers? I mean like 15 miles, 10 miles, something like that, right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Right. So they essentially arrive to this seaside resort in the Hotel Viva hotel. I guess I want to see some pictures, by the way, of this hotel. Maybe we can find some. Right. So these are just some pictures that I guess the residents took. What do you think about this hotel? I mean, it looks like your standard, I guess, summery resort hotel. Nothing too special or unique about it. It looks like a nice place.
Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty nice. I mean, the room looks nice. I love swimming pools. Right. So anytime I see a pool that's even halfway decent, I'm assuming that's kind of standard European resort fare.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty standard. As you can see, there's like the Black Sea in the distance. So, right, I guess there's from my research on YouTube, from watching other videos, I don't think people really mentioned one thing or like emphasized one thing enough. That basically this one thing pretty much sets the stage and pretty much like gives you a general perception of the whole situation. So they arrived on the 30th of June. So I believe that was like the last month of June in 2014, and they actually the fight broke out in the bar and whatnot between like the football fans. I'm sure everyone knows by now like what I'm talking about. On the 6th of like the following month. So they actually, from what I've gathered, stayed in and around the hotel area for like 6 days. So there were like questions online why they decided to go to a bar and then to a McDonald's if everything is like paid for in the hotel. Food, everything is paid for. Well, if you stay here for like 6 days, I'm pretty sure like this hotel gets really, really boring after 6 days, you know? So you probably
Yeah.
want to like venture out somewhere. So that made perfect sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it seems kind of stupid to go to like take the trouble to go all the way someplace else just to stay in like the exact same kind of
Exactly.
thing. You know what I mean? I mean, they could have gone to like another part of Germany probably and been in the same exact kind of hotel. So yeah, like you got to leave the hotel at some point, right?
Right, definitely. I mean, it would be stupid to stay there. By the way, I believe in 2004 there was like this World Cup happening. Can't really tell you where it was happening. Oh, it was Brazil, of course. So the game was on at a local pub, and the game was between, I believe, Costa Rica and the Netherlands. I'm not really certain which teams were playing, but it was like national teams, you know, not like sports clubs. I'm making sense here to you, right? I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hope, right? Because they're national teams that they're like, you know, compete in the World Cup, but they're not like the regular sports teams. And the World Cup happens every 4 years, so it's a pretty big deal, you know. We had like the last one in 2018 in Russia. I'm not sure if you heard about it. So we had that one in Russia. Then prior to that, we had one in Brazil. Prior to that, we had one in South Africa. So it happens all over the place. And for people in Europe, it's a pretty big deal, you know, football, or
Yeah, definitely.
like soccer for, you know, if like
For Americans, yeah. I mean,
for Americans, yeah.
it's and I mean it's funny too because even here I would say, I mean compared to like when I was a kid, I would say ever since we had the World Cup in the United States, after that the World Cup became a lot bigger and we appreciated it a lot more. So now like I feel like at least the office worker and when I've been in offices,
Right.
like we'll all watch the World Cup too.
Oh, cool. Right.
Yeah.
Because the US actually competes. Well, they didn't really compete in the 2018 one because I believe like
Yeah.
you lost like a game to like it was a bad performance. But let's not get into that.
Yeah.
Like you lost to like
Yeah.
some island nation in like the
Yeah.
Caribbean, and they took your spot.
We
So
do. We do.
I think
We
I
do.
think
We
it was
do. Wait.
Panama. I think it was Panama, by the way.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we're just for men's. It's too much competition. I will say for women's, both for Olympics and for Women's World Cup, um, we used to just dominate.
And
We used to
still
have
do.
the best team. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you
So
still
we do.
And you
We do
still
a lot better on the women's side. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so basically this game was happening. So what I wanted to mention here is that the game actually was not between the football sides that, you know, Lars was supporting. So he was supporting a team called Werder Bremen. Now this is a pretty famous team in Germany. It's, I would say, like a top 10 team in Germany. And
Okay.
he had a disagreement. Now there is a little bit of confusion here. Some sources state that he had a disagreement with like other fans of Borussia Dortmund, which is, I would say, the top 2 team in Germany, the second best team in Germany. And some sources say that he had a disagreement with Bayern Munich, the number 1 team in Germany, like fans of that team. So I don't know, man.
Okay.
It seems pretty weird. Like you're watching an international, you know, I guess game between like Costa Rica and the Netherlands. So, you know, no one has any connections at that bar to any of those teams. But maybe they start talking about football, and you know, someone asks like, what team do you support? And then he said, Werder Bremen, and then some other guys. But like he got into a fight with Bulgarians. So why would Bulgarians support
The-
other German clubs?
You know, that's what I wasn't clear on, and it was. I wish it was one of those. One of a couple of details that was hard to find more about. I guess if you're not a German speaker like us, because I was like, I couldn't figure out how many friends he was there with because part of it was like,
I think it was 4.
did he get in a fight? Oh, he was with 4 friends, or he was
Yeah.
a group of 4? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, it makes sense then, because I was wondering if maybe it was like other Germans. You know what I'm saying? So maybe
Right.
he's there and it's like it's other Germans and it's like Mets versus Yankees or something, or here in California, Dodgers versus Giants is like a big rivalry that
Right.
people
Yeah.
people actually get into fights about, which is just stupid.
I
But
mean, in Europe,
yeah,
like it's on a whole nother level. By the way,
oh
like
yeah,
people get
yeah,
into a fight, like Germans versus Germans. It happens all the time, in the
yeah.
local.
Well, I've
Definitely.
seen the football hooligan stuff, and then especially in Russia where it's like organized,
Oh
where
yeah.
it's like Roman gladiator style fights, or
Right.
armies
Yeah.
clashing. Yeah.
It's wild. Anyway, that's besides the point. So he, let me just quickly check on the notes. So he gets into a fight, and now, so he gets into a fight on the 6th of July. Let me just read what I have here in the notes. The troop was disturbed by an altercation between the group of German tourists and the group of locals. So they were locals, right? They were not
Okay. Okay.
other German fans. So that's what I found really weird. Like, why are you getting into a fight over football with locals? It doesn't really make any sense because, like, your team never plays any Bulgarian teams. I'm pretty
Th-
sure that never happens. So,
I, I just wonder if it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like the equivalent for you, but like if so, I know maybe somebody from England who's like a Manchester supporter
right.
goes to like Spain, and then they start talking a little bit trash, and then like just to, I don't know, hurt their feelings, they start talking about whoever Manchester's big rival is, and they're
Right.
like, oh yeah, well what's his name? What? Just like here, like with the Mets or
I,
Yankees,
I
or
get what you're,
yeah,
I really get what you're saying, but at
yeah,
the same time, the team that he was supporting wasn't really that big that had like well-known European rivals. Like
right,
everyone knows about, like, at least in terms of Germany, like the Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. Like you could, everyone knows, not necessarily even from Germany, that these two clubs, they're like the big rivalry in Germany. But like
okay,
this guy's team was like only like a top 10 team in Germany. So, a pretty a team that didn't really have that many supporters. So, it was weird. Like it was
okay.
definitely weird. So let me continue on here real quick. So right, so they get into a fight with the locals, and then they had a dispute over football at a local bar named the Rock Bar. So immediately I could not locate the Rock Bar. So it could either be, I feel like, three locations. So the first Rock Bar location is the Rock Bar at Golden Sands. Now this would make perfect sense that they were drinking, right next to the hotel. Like maybe they didn't feel like walking that much. But at the same time, there is another Rock Bar. Let me just quickly Google search it. There's another Rock Bar in Varna with a really similar name. Right, Rock Bar near Varna, Bulgaria. Right, this is what I want. As you can see, there's like a whole bunch of rock bars. There's a Rock Bar Spirit of Rock, Amsterdam Rock, Club Retro, Metro Rock Club 87. So we could either make the case that they went to this rock bar, which I think they did. I really feel strongly that they went to this bar right here, right next to the hotel that they were staying in, Golden Sands. But then the next part of the story really indicates to me that maybe this could have not been the right bar, because right after this fight, I believe on the same night, Lars and his friends went to get food at a local McDonald's. And as you can see from the map, let me just quickly search McDonald's. Oh shit, they dropped me in Romania's McDonald's. What I'm going to make the case for, the only McDonald's in Varna is in the heart of the city. Wait, let me just get it. Exactly right. So the only McDonald's. Oh no! Look, there's a bunch of McDonald's. Okay. So that's. I'm glad we cleared that up. So there's a bunch of, holy cow, there's so many McDonald's. Nah, I don't think these are McDonald's. Like, why would there be so many McDonald's? Nah, I don't think these are. Anyways, we can't really get the accurate information from the Google Maps, so I'm just gonna leave it there, I guess. I don't know, man. You want to add anything in the timeline that I've missed or something?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just I was trying to think of maybe it's like they get to have like half a McDonald's or something into like a hotel or something, or I don't know. Trying to think if there's any way. But yeah, I mean, it was just, yeah, it's weird. So someone goes out and you know, one of my favorite YouTubes I watch is like a self-defense thing where he breaks down videos, and so it sounds like you know, our main character here is doing like a little bit of dumb stuff. Like it's one thing to take a risk and wander around and explore and you know, kind of take advantage of being out in another country. That's what you're supposed to do, is try to maybe see the sights. But like, yeah, to go to a bar, I'm not like a super fond one of bars and like how people act when they're drunk, and I get kind of nervous because I guess I've had enough bad experiences with people getting drunk. So like right away, it's weird too, because he's not like I mean, he's a young guy, but he's not like a teenager or anything, you know. So that the getting in fights with people at bars thing is kind of something I think of maybe somebody that's a couple years younger than him doing, than like a, you know, a working professional at a power plant,
No
like an
doubt,
engineer.
right?
You know what I mean? Like duking it out with like Balkan football hooligans. Like what's he doing? You know?
That's a great breakdown, man. That's right. Okay, so let's move on. One thing to mention here to get the story correct: there was no violence inside the bar. So I think there are some people on the YouTube, right? And like even like news outlets stated that there was a fight in the bar, and from like my end of the research, I really could not find any information, like credible information, that there was a fight in the bar. And the fight allegedly, where, you know, he got his eardrum ruptured or something like that, you know, it did take place, but it did not take place at the bar. So at the bar, I believe they only had like you know, like it was all verbal. There was nothing physical going on in the bar, from what I've gathered. So basically, Lars went missing later that night, you know, when the verbal altercation between football fans that really didn't make any sense, how they even got to a point where they're arguing, because national teams were playing, you know, like whatever, because Bulgaria national team sucks. They've never been to the World Cup, you know, so why are you even getting mad right now? Whatever. So basically, he was waiting for his friends to purchase food from a nearby McDonald's fast food restaurant on the way back to the hotel. And they looked for him with no avail, and eventually decided to go back to the hotel, expecting Lars to be waiting for them at the hotel. So first of all, why was Lars not going into the McDonald's with his friends? You know, why did he not go in there? Why did he decide to wait outside for them? Like, if we had a clear destination of the McDonald's, you know, maybe I could make a better case, but I don't know, man. Now I don't even know how many McDonald's are there, because it says that there's McDonald's on every corner, but it definitely seems like it's too many McDonald's, you know, for Golden Sands to have like 3 McDonald's. What? Nah.
It's a lot of hungry tourists. Yeah, I mean, it is a little weird. So it starts to make me wonder if he'd had any other unusual behavior on that trip, and whether that was, you know, whether, you know, like there's, I think we'll talk about it later, but there's a lot of like hearsay about him, about, oh, you know, maybe he was doing this or that, but like maybe he was just acting weird. Like maybe this is just one of the things that leads to what happened to him, is he starts acting in erratic ways and sort of not, you know, like like being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
You know, like where's he going?
Exactly. Well, there was this thing. I'm not sure if you remember, but he actually was only eating like salads or something like that. Like he wasn't
Huh.
eating any meat during the trip prior to his disappearance, stuff like that. So
Ooh, I didn't hear that. That's actually interesting. So that'll actually tie into one of my theories later. Okay,
perfect.
good to know. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm continuing with the story. So the friends, they did not find him at the hotel, but Lars actually returned the next morning to the hotel, and he actually claimed to his friends that he has been essentially he got into a physical fight. Now, not a verbal fight, but a physical fight with a group of men that he believed were sent for him by the group they had an altercation with earlier in the night. So he claimed that the group had hired a bunch of locals or Russians to rough him up. Apparently, his friends weren't convinced with the story, neither am I. So, because, come on, man. You already got into a verbal altercation in this bar while watching football, so these football hooligans, they're gonna call the real guys, Russian mob, to come and mess you up?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the whole point of being a football hooligan was to do your own fighting.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, why would you let someone else have the fun?
Right, so what? No, I don't get it. So basically, the friends were like, we're not buying it, but they let the whole story go. So, I don't know, man, maybe the friends were like tipsy, after like last night, they were like, oh, here's Lars. He has like this crazy story about like a bar fight, like a fight in the streets with like Russian mafia. Like, my head hurts. I don't got time for this nonsense. Maybe it was like that type of situation because it's just so bizarre, how like the story is bizarre. So now this is the fun part, or at least I would not necessarily call it the fun part, but the interesting part is the location of Lars Midang between waiting outside of the McDonald's for his friends to order and returning to the hotel the following morning is unknown. So no one knows about where he was, during like from, I don't know, man, the afternoon on the 6th and the morning of the 7th. No one knows where he was. No one knows what he was doing. Was there a fight? Was there anything? He did have fight marks on his face, and the ruptured eardrum was also a real thing. So that's all we know, that somehow during those, like, I don't know, man, like what, like 10, 12 hours, something like that, he managed to get his face actually bruised up and his eardrum ruptured. So that's all we know. Any ideas? Because the Russian mob situation, I don't get it, but I do have other ideas. But before I actually give my ideas, I want to hear, like, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, the ruptured eardrum thing is so weird because I think I did from now my whole timeline's mixed up because I was thinking that I didn't realize the friends. I didn't get to the details where the friends weren't even there when he
yes,
he got in this alleged fight.
That's the thing that no one talks about. Like, that's what the YouTube videos say. He didn't get into a fight with his when his friends like were around. He got into a fight when he was missing for those 12 hours.
Even the ruptured eardrum thing is like a weird, you know what I mean? Like, don't you usually get punched in the face? Like, who gets? I mean, unless he got slapped in the head, that's the only way I can think of somebody getting a ruptured eardrum. If someone like hit him really hard in the side of his head with like, you know, like an open hand. I'm trying to think, like, how do you even get a ruptured eardrum in a fight and not get like a black eye or something? You know what I mean? Like other scrapes. Like, don't you fall down and stuff? Oh, did he? Okay.
He had some scrapes, so I'm not
some science.
There, man, I'm pretty sure that the fight did happen. I'm just not sure that all the people on YouTube and on the blogs got all the timeline 100% correct, because I really feel strongly that the fight happened during the time when he was missing, you know. So so but because it would not make sense. Why would the French let Lars just get like attacked by like Bulgarian goons, and what they were just like finishing up their beers, and then they were like, let's go to McDonald's.
Like, seems so weird. Yeah, and like, would you even be in the mood to go to McDonald's after all that? I mean, unless everybody was pretty drunk. But yeah, it's the whole thing is weird. And then I don't know. Do we talk about the doctor part yet?
Yeah. If you want to, because I don't really have like too much information on the doctor, so if you can take it away, that would be amazing.
It's pretty weird. So yeah, he goes and he gets goes to a doctor for the he has the ruptured eardrum, and he goes to see a doctor. It's funny how like some of the German message boards, they were obsessing about how long the doctor visit was. Like they were like 40 minutes. That seems like a really long doctor visits. And I'm like, ugh, you know what? I've had like 2.5 hour doctor visits. Like, I think it just depends what your notion is of your
what I was gonna say is that's a completely, like, if I'm going to a doctor's appointment, I'm expecting no less than 40 minutes, you know, especially here, like, right.
Yeah, I mean here, like, depending how busy your doctor is, like I've been to doctors where they definitely overbook, and like I'm in the waiting room just for 40 minutes before I even get in a room.
That's a typical doctor visit to me, you know.
Yeah, because people were all suspicious, like, oh, what was really going on there? Anyway, so you see the doctor, and I guess that makes sense, because when the doctor advises him not to fly, I guess, because of the air pressure difference. It's a little bit weird. I don't know. So here's what I don't get. Okay, well, before I get to the part I don't get, I'll just add in this detail because I'm going to talk about it later. He gets prescribed an antibiotic named, let's see if I can pronounce this right, Ciprofloxacin. Ciprofloxacin, which I did some research on, and it's a pretty standard antibiotic. It's used for a lot of different things. It's pretty widespread. It does have a little bit of side effects, like you and I talked about, like maybe unsettled stomach. There is, however, one group of people that I'll talk about later on that it affects, and I think your vegetarian diet thing you mentioned, something I had not heard of, but it actually perks me up a little bit. But before we talk about that, I just have to wonder, like, I was doing some research just now while we were talking, and I said, okay, so he ends up staying behind because of this. So his friends leave without him, and he's left behind, and this is sort of the beginning of the end for him. But it's a little bit weird because, so he just sees his friends off, and then he goes and stays into a cheaper hotel, and this is where his behavior seems to get very strange and deteriorate. The one thing I had to wonder was, like, why couldn't he just take a train? Like, it's not that far, is it? I was looking up on the Eurorail website, and you can definitely take a train from Varna to Berlin, Varna to Berlin, or wherever's near. I mean, that's close enough to where he lives. I'm sure you could take a train from Berlin. So it's like, why would he? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of. It was like, what, you could only, it's a plane or nothing. Like, I don't understand. Like, it would take a day or something, but you could definitely take a train.
I haven't even really thought about it. Wait, have you actually seen the map of the railroads that he would have to take?
Yeah. I went on the Eurorail map this past 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I was poking around, and I actually tried to book like a trip, like do like a little,
right,
trip wizard thing.
Yeah.
And you can definitely, like, there's definitely, you could, I think that's always one of the things that here in the U.S. we don't really, we have our version of it, but it's not as good. But in Europe, you guys really have a great railway system, and you have a lot of affordable options, and like really nice trains.
Right.
And we're getting a little better here, but like the problem with the U.S. is we have so many big open spaces, and a lot of the train stations, because trains sort of like got kind of phased out for passenger traffic when airplanes came. A lot of our train stations are like in industrial areas, nothing's nearby, and you're like, if you take a train from like Los Angeles to Chicago or something, unless you get a sleeper car and pay a lot of money, it's not like such a nice trip. It's like you don't really get to sleep. It's not cool.
But,
so
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, Europe is way different. So that's what I'm saying. Like that was one thing I was like, why did he even have to stick around there? So that part's a little weird too. I could kind of see why there's all this. Not that I follow the theory that I'm like a supporter of it, but I can see why there was a lot of paranoia. And there's like you and I were talking about this before, where a lot of the YouTubers seem to think like there was some kind of secret drug connection, or that he was doing something like maybe he was smuggling drugs, or had, you know, like you said, what was he doing when his friends were in McDonald's and he would disappear? I could see why between that and like him making up some excuse to stick around and some other stuff, I could see why people would think that, because, you know, like there was a little bit of weirdness. I don't think that that's the case, but
yeah,
I can see why someone think that, because no, I would attribute it to, you know, maybe he just wasn't feeling right, and he didn't feel like moving around. Like if your eardrums messed up, like I had a coworker who had like an inner ear problem, and it was like devastating. Like sometimes he couldn't even stand.
Oh, god damn it!
You know what I'm talking about? So like I could see why maybe you wouldn't want to be on a train if your ear was messing up.
On a plane.
On a plane or a train.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like, even because I'm like, well, why wouldn't he take the train? The plane you can't do it because of the altitude. So maybe that the doctor's like, oh, when you change altitude and the air pressure in the airplane, it's going to put pressure in the eardrum, and we're trying to get it to heal up.
You know.
So we don't want you to do that. But yeah, it's the only thing.
I actually have looked into this whole situation with like the ruptured eardrums and flying, and so and it's a real thing. Like it's not just some weird quirky situation that Lars just found himself in. There's like a whole bunch of people who have like ear problems, and they're they're actually advised by the medical I guess experts to not fly. So it's a real thing, you know, because I heard about like this whole problem for the first time when I was researching into this case, but then I looked at like, you know, some other people who say that this is like a usual thing. Like a lot of people have like issues with their ears, and they were like advised not to fly. So it's a real thing. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, it's it's not like it's not like something that it was super like weird and unheard of. Like, it's a real situation essentially.
Well, then maybe the only thing I can think of is maybe the train kind of falls in the same category where I'm assuming like you know that I don't know totally for sure, but if that train you take has to cross any mountain ranges where you're going to change altitudes, you know, a few thousand feet, maybe it's kind of the same issue where, you know, like if you go up 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet.
Another thing I was thinking, maybe the prices of the train tickets are like really high, because this would be like a train ticket that like it just seems like an expensive train ticket, man.
So the price I got out of the Eurail site was about $276.
That actually explains to me, man, because like, you know how much like a ticket from Varna airport to like Germany would cost if you get a good deal. That would be like in US money, that would be like, I don't know, man, like $40-50.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So I think
no
that's
wonder.
Yeah, no wonder, man. Like because I was thinking like, yeah, like those intercontinental train trips, like they're like expensive, you know, when it's like when you're like crossing different countries. I think it would be too much of a hassle, by the way, also.
But then I'm just trying to factor in, like, I'm just going devil's advocate for a second. I'm like, well,
right.
But what about like I mean, I understand a hotel room in Bulgaria might be pretty inexpensive.
Like 20,
but I'm just trying to add up
$20, some shit like that. Something.
So
like
just so you know, it's like that times a couple of days plus, like, I mean, he's not working, right? I mean, I know in Europe you guys get a lot more vacation than we do here, but still, like, I mean, presuming, like, does he really want to burn vacation days on like hanging out in this cheap, crappy hotel in Bulgaria without his friends? I don't know.
Mm.
The whole thing's weird, but I'll stick a pin in it because I'm not gonna belabor it too much. It's just I thought it was a little bit weird. So
To
then the
make your
next thing
point,
is,
to make your
yeah.
point, like I just remembered, like Hotel Color was the name of this hotel, Hotel Color in Varna, and let me just show you the neighborhood, man. Let me just show you the neighborhood.
Is it juicy?
It was, like, maybe go ahead with what you were going to say, and I'm gonna find the
Yeah.
neighborhood because
Well,
it's a funny neighborhood, man. I'm gonna show you.
I think so. This is where I think this is where I start to really wonder about what was really going on with him because it's a couple things going on. Like you said, he's from an affluent part of Germany, or at least a well-to-do part, and all of a sudden he's isolated, right? So he had his friends, and it's like someone's got your back. And I know for me, the first time I ever went someplace, well, I mean, basically up until
Right.
maybe 15 years ago, I'd never even really been outside of the U.S. except for Canada, and Canada, for all intents and purposes, is pretty much the same as the U.S. So my first time to another country where like I guess I felt way more affluent than everybody around me.
Right.
And then I could see somebody. Here's a couple things. So one is that alone can make somebody paranoid, and then we have this other behavior, and you have to start to wonder, like, did this behavior precede him going? Like, maybe his friends didn't know that he was starting to act a little kooky. It's not unheard of for people to start having mental issues emerge in early adulthood, and this is still early enough that like stuff like schizophrenia and things like that can start emerging and somebody not know it. And then you mentioned kind of I'm not saying that people that are vegetarians are weird, but there's not always people start doing strange things with their diet sometimes for reasons that aren't entirely logical. So that makes me kind of wonder. So then the
Right.
other
So
thing
by the
is,
way, yeah,
yeah,
you're making a great
oh yeah,
point with that. Just neighborhood, man. If you
yeah,
have
that's
listeners not on YouTube right now, I highly suggest you check the Google Maps because that we're showing right now. I'm just really trying to find like the time when this was filmed. Now I'm not gonna be correct on the time because I can't see the time for some reason. When the Google I guess photo car. Look at this trash.
yeah.
Uh, look at this. Look at this.
So
What is
so
this?
if I'm like some kind of like German first worlder living in like
I mean, Bulgaria is not the third world, but
yeah, no,
but
you
but
know what I mean.
it's
I mean
like
like you're
it's
just
it's
saying
still
like
part of
you're,
the European Union. It would be
yeah,
pretty hard to
yeah.
call it the third world, but it's definitely on
But
the outskirts of European
but it's
Union.
not. Yeah, I'd say it's not. It's not the same as like where he was living, where he's living in like
No, no, no,
one
no.
of the best parts of the EU, and then like I don't know, it doesn't seem like a great way to spend your vacation time, and then like your head hurts. So that's the other thing is, if he did in fact get in a fight and get struck in the head, some of his behavior where he starts acting paranoid, he's got these stories about being followed, um, he starts acting nervous. He calls his mother, and he gives this whole weird rambling story about four men following him, and he asked her. The weird thing to me was he asked her to cancel his credit cards, like
Yes.
he was worried, I guess, maybe getting abducted and having like his money. But I was like, why does he care more about his money than himself? Like that wouldn't be, you know what I mean? I guess if I was worried about someone trying to kill me, I don't know, if anything, wouldn't you want maybe them to just be happy with the money and not be like, okay, well, this car's canceled, so now we're going to cut off your other leg until you tell us, you're pinning on this. Like, just let them get the money. You can get the
Right.
money back from your bank.
Um.
Like, if you get kidnapped,
What?
I mean, you can get,
Yeah. What I
yeah,
was what I was thinking that the money situation was not because of like that. It's definitely odd that he asked to cancel like his credit cards.
yeah,
I think there could be a different explanation to that. Maybe Lars was potentially doing something illegal,
okay,
and he wanted to freeze his assets just in case. Maybe that was the case. Maybe
interesting.
because I'm going to make a case, at the end of the podcast for like to allude to what kind of things Lars was probably doing, and the credit card. I guess the banning of the credit card would make sense now. I'm just looking at this place, and this is supposed to be the resort town, you know? Holy crap, it looks like, almost looks like post-apocalyptic, you know? Ugh, it's like trash everywhere, you know? I don't know, maybe this was back in the day, because things do change in European Union, especially in the lower quality of life countries quite rapidly, since we are getting, you know, everyone else money now to embezzle, which Bulgaria is a notorious money embezzling state. So, you know, but maybe something has changed, because I think this is like a few years ago, but like even for a few years ago, like this place just seems like if you don't know what you're doing, you could run into issues real quick, you know? This looks like, I don't want to call this a slum or anything like that, but this, you know, like, you know what I'm trying to say here. It doesn't look like a...
Doesn't look sparkling, yeah. It looks pretty yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the thing is, here in the U.S. we have some urban areas that look a lot worse, especially like in Detroit or someplace like in the Rust Belt, where things are just totally gone. But yeah, it looks pretty uninspiring,
to say the least, right?
Yeah. So I guess so. That's the thing. Was I guess if we want to just get we can probably get to the crux of the story and then get into the rest of our theories is
right.
Where I want to break down a little bit of what I
should we jump to the CCTV?
Yeah, let's jump to it. So yeah, he goes and he gets in this weird. Let me actually while you're spooling that up,
right.
I'll just go ahead and finish off the little thing that happened here at the climax here. So, you know, he spends one night at the hotel, the cheap hotel. He gets paranoid and frightened. Calls his mom and he says in a whisper that 4 men were coming to kill him and she should cancel his credit cards. You know, it's weird because his mom said she could actually hear his heart pounding over the phone. Which,
what?
You know, that's interesting. I mean,
oh my God.
That sounds like somebody having a panic attack. That sounds like somebody. Maybe it might be a little bit of hyperbole there, but maybe he was breathing pretty hard. Maybe it was like pretty much almost the same thing. But
Jesus.
That he sent a text to his mother asking her about the antibiotics. That's interesting too. He's actually asked about the medication, so he's showing paranoia about a couple of things, but it might not be unreasonable. And then, you know, there's different footage of him being flustered and pacing around and acting pretty strange and even hiding inside an elevator. That's interesting because that's like the other case we had here in downtown LA that we covered.
You're right.
Somebody hiding in an elevator. Yeah, though she was clearly, I think, mentally ill. And then he left the hotel at 1 a.m. returning later. That's a little weird. I mean, I wouldn't want to roam around those streets as a non-local at 1 a.m. So that's, I don't know, it's sort of dangerous behavior a little bit. I mean, I don't know how dangerous that area is, but I don't think that any city is really super safe at 1 in the morning. Airport. So do you guys have doctors at airports?
Not here in Lithuania. Maybe they have to have them in Bulgaria for, I don't know, man, for because Bulgaria is a rougher place, you know.
On the way out, yeah, it's interesting. Like so here he is trying to fly again, where it's like, well, I thought the doctor said no flying, so that's interesting. But it said that
one thing we did not mention, because I'm not sure you're going to mention this. He was offered a surgery, and he refused. He was offered a surgery that would get him pretty much well enough in like a day to fly.
Oh wow!
But he refused it. So he refused it, and that's when he got the drugs. So no one really on YouTube also mentions this fact. He was offered the surgery by the doctor, but he just outright said, "Nah, I'll pass up on this surgery right now because I don't want to get a surgery in Bulgaria," which is a perfectly, I guess, justifiable concern in my eyes. I would not want to get any surgeries done in Bulgaria as well, but especially for something like an ear rupture, maybe that's not that big of an issue. So he was like, I think it was a,
Yeah.
I think it was a normal decision. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that. I mean, I know, like, especially given the kind of good healthcare you guys have in Europe, where it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, if you can
Well,
have the choice to do it.
It's the quality is not all that great, but it's pretty cheap, so we'll take it, you know.
I mean, Germans have a pretty good reputation
yeah,
for
they
doing things right. So
Oh,
yeah, I can
like
see why he was.
they have a really good one down in Germany, the healthcare system, but
Yes, so
in Bulgaria,
maybe not as good. Yeah,
to say
Yeah,
the least, right?
you know, nothing personal, Bulgarians. It's just he wants to go back to the A team. So, you know, the
Right.
varsity team to do it. So yeah, I mean, the one thing that's interesting is the doctor also said that he seemed nervous and erratic, and he was mistrustful of the drugs. And then he said, actually, when a the same doctor, this Dr. Kostov, said that Minnick began to tremble. So again, I mean, this is pretty. These are like, between what his mom said, what the doctor said. These are like physical manifestations of fear that are like a little bit. I mean,
Yikes.
you know, I mean, it's a little bit unusual to see this behavior in like grown adults and men and in situations. You know, I mean, like, it would be one thing if you're on a plane that's about to crash, but like, this is just a dude at the doctor's office who's acting like he's kind of coming apart at the seams. So that's interesting. And then right after this, he goes, I don't want to die here. I want to have to get out of here.
What was that all about?
Yeah, and then we have the video of him just like
Look at this.
dashing out
Oh
of
my
there.
god.
I mean,
it looks like he was in the Olympics with that run. But now, what you see, once he's out of the airport, like, look, with every shot we get, he's putting less and less effort into running. He's not running anymore. That's how I walk to the mall, you know? That's not running anymore. Look, he's no longer running. Well, he is a little bit at the end, but he's not like, you know what I'm saying? He made this dash outside of the airport. Now, one detail that I could not really get my head around correctly: how long was he in the airport? Because there are some statements that he was in there for like 10 minutes. Then some sources state that he was in the airport at like the doctor's for like a half an hour or like 40 minutes. You know? He leaves all of his stuff behind. You can see.
Yeah, so he left his stuff. So that part's pretty weird too. I mean, and then you know, long story short, he is never seen again.
Yeah,
well, at
pretty
least
much.
as far as we know. So I think the one thing I wanted to say that, like, if somebody was to just go with like one explanation is if he had a head injury or had some kind of mental health issue already,
right?
Or maybe that it was getting compounded by being left alone, strange country, doesn't speak the language, and then I don't know. I mean, when you travel, do you ever get homesick? Like, I know I get.
Not me because I never really traveled for like, I don't know, man. I don't think I get homesick for like a week or like 2 weeks. Maybe like if I was out somewhere for a month, but like, I don't know, man. Not me personally, but that would be just like preferences. You know, Lithuania is not the best place in the world to live in, so it takes a long time to get homesick for Lithuania, man.
I feel like the last time I was gone on a super long trip, I didn't get homesick, but other trips, I guess, when I was missing my stuff, I guess, and missing like now.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's like it's easier because like you have your phone and you have your computer and like you can kind of stay in contact with stuff. So like, kind of like your life moves with you. But before, I don't know. I've seen it too with like maybe relatives or in-laws who have come to stay for like a long time, where like at some point they start acting a little bit like they're not feeling well, and it's because they're maybe just missing their normal day to day. But I was just wondering, one explanation could be he has this thing happen. He has like a bunch of bad things happen, and then he starts to, like it could be that he starts to become unhinged, and maybe he's having actual panic attacks because of the physiological manifestations. It does sound like, a panic attack's pretty awful. Like a panic attack, you actually feel like you're going to die. You feel like you're having a heart attack. There's people that have panic attacks that think they're having a heart attack because they really feel like they're going to die. I could see him getting some kind of panic disorder and not having any support network because he doesn't have any family there. And he goes, and he runs, and then like I said, he gets away from the place and he's starting to calm down. This is stupid, but what am I doing? But then, like, I don't know. I guess the question is,
I mean, it's hard to believe. Like, if you're homesick, why are you not flying back home?
It's weird though. I mean, the only thing I have to say to that is that he's not acting rational at this point. He's like his body. Well, his body is like pushing him out.
A few things we have left out of the story. I guess I will try to fill them in, and then we can move on to the theories. Do you still have like some of the solvable mysteries podcast solutions on your end?
I mean, the only other one I had was
maybe like
why don't I save it? I'll save it for after.
Because we missed a few things. Okay, basically let's trace back a little bit back. So the antibiotics that you were talking about were prescribed by a doctor, Boris Najdenov, and Mitank obtained the medication from a local pharmacy. He walked around the local area looking for a new place to stay and eventually decided on a place named the Hotel Color, so the one in the shady neighborhood we've shown prior, in Varna, in the same city basically. And this hotel costed him around $25 a night, and it is reviewed as an average on TripAdvisor. One of the user comments that the hotel is just a 15-minute walk from the bus stop, and another describes it as a friendly family-run hotel. Some complained of outdated interior and stained sheets. So typical low-end hotel stuff right there. Nothing too suspicious. I mean, they did have the cameras. They did capture him hiding in the elevator, doing erratic movements in this cheap hotel. So I was actually surprised that they even had cameras or whatnot. But that's besides the point. The following day, Lars started acting strangely. At 10 minutes to midnight. So basically on the same day he checked in, just at midnight. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, but I believe it was then. Lars actually called his mother using his cell phone and told her that he felt scared. He asked her if she would contact his bank and freeze his credit card, as you've mentioned before. Very odd. He also called her again at 3 a.m. So wait, this is like 3 in the morning, right? 3 a.m. Am I mistaken?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Right, 3 a.m. And he told her in a low whisper that he was hiding from a group of men who had been following him. 3 a.m. He called his mother at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? So like in the middle of the night. So like, goddamn, like what are you doing? Like you were probably in the hotel because the hotel would capture you leaving. So you called from the hotel to tell your mother that you were hiding from thugs. Whatever, that's also besides the point because there's some juicy details right now. Lars had left the hotel with his things in the middle of the night, staff said. He texted his mother asking what CFC 500 was. So CFC 500 is the abbreviation for the antibiotics he had been prescribed earlier for his ruptured eardrum, he would have most likely been prescribed this to prevent an ear infection. Makes sense. So at 6 a.m., Lars was dropped off at the airport in a taxi. He had apparently shared this taxi with another passenger. After waving it down in the street, they supposedly described him as having mydriasis. I have not heard about this one. Do you know what that could stand for? That's MYDRIASIS.
No, I never heard of that.
So basically, although most people's first thought when they hear someone has large or dilated pupils is drug use, such as amphetamines, but mydriasis can also be called. So mydriasis basically is the messed up pupils when they're like really enlarged. So basically, this also could be caused by a trauma, including head injuries. Although trauma usually has to be quite severe. So was the trauma quite severe from the alleged fight that no one even knows that happened the day prior?
Well, right. Yeah, it says here it could be from a concussion. So it might be. I'm just looking at the possible causes of the mydriasis.
Okay.
It says that it could happen from well, obviously it's also from drug stuff, but yeah, it's interesting to say that.
Yeah, so
vomiting and memory loss. Interesting.
Right. What I was gonna ask, like, I don't know, man, like the audience or whatever, I'm wondering what kind of a surgery did this Dr. Boris Najdenov, so not the Costa Costos in the airport, which is also odd. Why do you have doctors in the airport? The guy that prescribed him the antibiotics, like what kind of a surgery was he suggesting? Because there are surgeries with low risk to repair ruptured eardrums, but it can also heal on its own given time, usually a month or so. So do you really want to prescribe surgeries? I don't know, man. So this surgery would have allowed Mitank to leave the hospital within a couple of days and be on his way. So maybe it was offered so he could get back to Germany more quickly. But then he was like, I don't want to have any surgeries in Bulgaria right now. Let me just bite down and just fly, man, or something like that. So basically, once at the airport, he called his mother again, who booked him a flight. So his mother paid for the flight, or at least booked it. And his mother also advised him to drop in on the airport doctor before boarding. So his mother told him to go to the doctor. That's a detail that we did not mention. And the detail we also did not mention that, like, I want to go back a little bit. He had messed up pupils in the taxi. So, maybe he was messed up coming into the airport. He called his mother. His mother was like, yo, boy, you messed up right now. Go to the doctors. He went to the doctors. Maybe he took something like shrooms or something to like
or amphetamines or
just for the flight, so that he could feel better for during the flight. Maybe one of his friends back home said, just do some meth.
Because
that's gonna help. But it turned out really badly.
Yeah, that actually seems plausible, because I was trying to say, well, maybe he had a concussion and that's why, but then he wasn't showing any of the other symptoms. I mean, other than, I would argue maybe he did seem confused, but he wasn't vomiting, he wasn't staggering, he wasn't showing like a brain injury symptom, but he definitely was acting.
Look at this.
Like a meth addict.
Look at this. Look at how he walks into the airport. Seems normal. Normal, but look at this.
Not staggering or anything.
But look at this. Look at the next shot. Just pay attention to how he walks in this shot.
Yeah.
Maybe the bags are heavy, but he is like weaving around a little bit. He by the way, he talks to a woman. Look at this. He talks to a woman. He asks the woman where the doctor is. So either the doctor's place is hard to find, or he was maybe messed up here, and he just couldn't even find the doctors.
Interesting.
So let's take a look. So basically, look at this. This is the thing that I don't get. Look, I'm gonna make the case right now. Like, so this is him not talking to no woman, no, nothing. He's just searching for the doctors, right? So he basically asks. He can't find the doctors. Like the lady tells him, like the doctor is like right there. So like, could he not have seen it? Maybe the doctor's place was like down the hall. I don't know, but like, whew, she took off like Usain Bolt. Like sometime after the fact. So maybe he was, so maybe he was on meth or something, because someone advised him that take these drugs. They will help you with the ear pain during the flight, and then you can do the surgery back home. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. So these are like the only things I wanted to mention before I guess we move into the theories. I mean, this was one of the theory. I'm actually leaning pretty strongly towards like this theory that he took some stuff for the ear pain during the flight, but he took either too much stuff, he took not the right stuff, he maybe took tainted stuff, maybe it was super illegal, maybe he was scared that he was on drugs, and right now the police, and he thought that the construction worker that went into the doctor's office was actually a police officer, and he was gonna get detained, and he was on drugs, and he was like, I cannot go to jail in Bulgaria.
Right.
Because look how he runs here. Look at how he runs here. Does this look like you're running for your life here? You're just like tipsy, like what is happening? That's like the type of run. Like this run looks like he's trying to win the Olympics. But but look at how he runs outside of the airport.
Yeah, once no one's near him.
See?
It's pretty, I mean, it goes back to what you and I were talking earlier, and I was asking, like, well, how common is it for people to even go to Bulgaria? Like, why? I guess it begs the question, if you're like these, this bunch of like kind of semi-well-to-do German young adults, and you're like some engineer, and, it seems like he has money to spend. Like, what's so great about Bulgaria? Like, what? And
I mean,
you mentioned,
cheap.
well,
it's cheap, and the thing is, like, I don't know if a lot of people are like me, but I actually would never want to go to like a Spain seaside resort. Like this, the crazy dangerous places are definitely interest me a lot more. Like, I would definitely love to go to like Russia, to like some Russian like town in Siberia. Like, I don't know, maybe they have like the same line of thinking that I have. Like, let's go to like the crazy place. Let's not necessarily go to like the safe, secure spot, because it's boring, right? I don't know, maybe that's the case.
It makes sense. I mean, especially even now where I've heard like so many places now have too many tourists. I mean, like just the Spain thing alone.
Spain is messed up. Spain is it's too many people.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I can imagine some of these places, because they're so popular, having the same problem that, like, I don't know, like a big casino has in like Vegas or something, where you're just like, ugh, just get me away from all these people, because there's just
Atlantic City or something like that.
Yeah, we're just like, ugh, just, I mean, and then not even necessarily like very sophisticated people. You're kind of just getting any kind of dummy who's there to see something. So okay, that makes sense to me. I guess the other thing though you alluded to is there's, Bulgaria has kind of a reputation for, being the connecting point of different kinds of illicit trade and having a lot of organized crime. So then I was like, well, yeah. So then I guess we can get into, could he and his friends have been there for, some other kinds of recreation, maybe?
Exactly. Quickly, before we start talking about this theory, because like, I guess we definitely need to jump into the theories by now. Heroin. So everyone knows about heroin, but I don't think everyone knows where it comes from. So over 90% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan, where they grow like poppy seeds, stuff like that. So essentially, right now from the map, like this is a really bad resolution map. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could probably still make out the lines I guess if you can see, like from Afghanistan, there are two ways that drugs can get into Europe. So I mean, yeah, pretty much drugs and heroin especially. So if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna get the drugs into Russia, you're gonna have to do it from like the Central Asian states, the Kazakhstan, and then into Russia. And then from Russia, they would come to like my area, Lithuania, the Baltic states, such and such. But there's not that much of a market in Russia. There is a big market, but not as big as in Eastern Europe. I mean Western Europe. Eastern Europe is also not a big drug market because drugs cost a lot of money, and people in Eastern Europe don't necessarily have all the money in the world to keep buying drugs. So basically, if you're gonna get the drugs to Germany, France, UK, I don't know, man, Netherlands, stuff like that, Spain. If you're gonna get that into the Western Europe, you're gonna have to take the drugs through Iran, then Turkey, and then guess what? Bulgaria. So Bulgaria is actually a place where a lot of heroin is like being transported. So people that are completely, insisting that there was no like drug trafficking connection in this case, I'd actually suggest you look into it a little bit, and it's not completely out of the question for me, because Bulgaria is a country where you definitely see a lot of drug trafficking,
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, once again, like why? I don't know. Why? Because the hotel you showed, you might as well have been like on like a Spanish seaside resort. You know what I mean? Like as far as what it offered, I was like, well, what's the difference? Like, what was the special thing other than the cost? I guess that it's like a cheaper version of it.
It has
like,
the
what
Black
was the
Sea.
advantage?
Black Sea,
Yeah, I mean,
would say it's a cool sea.
I mean, okay, so maybe that's.
It's a really cool
just,
sea, man. I've been to the
yeah.
Black Sea, and it's a cool place. I think like you can't drown in it or something like that because it's super salty, and the salt actually lifts your body. So
Oh wow.
it's like the Black Sea in total. It's not like any other sea in the world, and you could just go there for the Black Sea. So I think people don't emphasize that the Black Sea is also a cool place.
Okay. I didn't realize. I didn't even realize it was salty.
Yeah, it's like
wow.
It's like super salty.
Wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense to me then. I guess. Yeah. It seems plausible to me then, and then yeah, some of his other behavior certainly does seem like somebody who's suffering some kind of like drug-induced psychosis.
Right.
Like the paranoid behavior and the delusions and like the panic attack and especially the dilated pupils seems like a giveaway. Something's going on now.
Yes.
I guess. So what do you think? Do you think it's time?
I think it's time, man. I think it's time. So I don't know, man. If you want to give your solution to this problem.
Well, I don't know if it's a solution, but it is. Maybe it ties into like some of the weird behavior, and this is a really fringe thing. Is this is almost like the Elisa Lam thing, where I had like a fringe thing that came from the I think the serotonin overdose thing, serotonin condition. So one of the things I was digging into the antibiotic, and I'm like, that's interesting. Like I wasn't really familiar with it, but there's lots of antibiotics. And I was looking into the side effects, and it looks like it's a pretty straightforward, relatively safe antibiotic. It's used for a lot of things, but the one thing I did find that was kind of weird, and then especially when you said this thing about his all salad diet, and I mean, like if you were drinking it all, it doesn't sound like maybe he had a lot of food on the stomach, so like that doesn't help, right? Like that just makes you get drunker quicker. Maybe that's why you got in a fight in a bar in a strange country. But
just before you make another case, why it would explain why he did not go inside the McDonald's. He was like, I don't want to eat meat. Okay, but this is like continue what you were saying. I just had this like quick like flash like an idea right there, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So yeah, the one thing I was thinking of is one of the things it says the I'm saying his name right, cefuroxime.
The
Sometimes
antibiotics, right? Yeah.
yeah, the antibiotics sometimes contains something called all these names so hard to say. Phenylalanine.
Okay.
Phenylalanine.
You sound like you're drowning, man.
I know. Bleh. Phenylalanine. Okay, so phenylalanine is, I think, it's a kind of protein, and it's interesting because it's apparently in everything. It's one of those things where if you're like allergic to it or you have some kind of condition around it, it's really hard to find a diet that doesn't have that food in it. And there is actually a group of people. It's once again, it's one of those things. It's like a really big name. Something called phenylketonuria, which is abbreviated as PKU. Let's just call it PKU.
Let's stick with that
it's
one,
like,
man.
oh my god, what a name! If you just Google PKU, so phenylketonuria is a
like you lost me with the name.
I know it's like this. It's like this. I'd heard of it before. I had to go research into it.
Right.
I think that's why they call it PKU, because it's just like one of those things where nobody can say it. It's a thing where it's interesting. It's a genetic condition. You inherit it, where I think you have to have both parents have a recessive gene for it. And it's one of those things where if you have it, usually it's pretty obvious because it turns out that when you have like kind of the full version of it, like the really prominent version of it, it's kind of obvious where you might have like microcephaly, so like a really tiny head. You might have like certain deformities or abnormalities.
Right.
You might have. It turns out that if you don't change your diet rather quickly, as a child, you'll end up with intellectual disabilities. So it'll actually retard your intellectual development.
Oh wow! Crap.
Yeah, so it's and I don't mean that in the derogatory sense. I mean in the true sense of the word of it actually slowing down or giving you a mental disability.
Yeah.
So that's interesting right there. And actually, here's another side little note thing. This is one of the things where I had to look really closely at his pictures.
Okay.
It also tends to inhibit melanin production, so they tend to be blonde. He's a pretty dirty blonde like me, so I mean his eyes are actually even darker than mine are. I was looking at it and I'm like, I wonder if I have ancestors from his end of the world. I probably do, because he and I kind of have like he grew up in some place that's a lot paler, a lot less sun than me. So
yeah, his eyes are really dark.
Pretty dark, right? So I was like, well, he doesn't look that blonde. He doesn't look that pale. He looks like he's getting at least enough melanin production. So, but there are some kind of more minor cases of PKU. Okay. And I do wonder if either whether he had like maybe a more slight case. I mean, like I said, he wasn't a stupid guy. He had a job that required some brain power. So it doesn't sound like he had any kind of major form of it. But I wonder if he had a more minor form, and that's why he had changed his diet to something that was fairly strict. So then what I wonder is it can, like I said, this antibiotic can actually cause some issues with some pretty significant health issues with somebody that has this PKU, and that's the only thing I could find where I was like, well, could it be the antibiotic? Could it be, like we said with the serotonin syndrome thing with Elisa Lam? Could there be any explanation? That's the closest I could come to something where, other than of course the head injury or him being on an actual drug.
Right. That's, I completely missed this thing, so that's definitely interesting.
I think I'm the only one that found that.
I think so, man. I don't
know if it's right.
I don't think anyone else had this on their
No.
like
PKU.
bullet points of potential explanations. But okay, that's interesting, man. Whoa, that's and it would correlate with the fact that he has changed up his diet, which seemed quite unnatural for him. Okay, so that's definitely something right there. But for me, I think that the number one theory is that he actually was someone somehow told him to take some illegal stuff when he was going to the airport to soothe his ear pain when he was going to fly, because he did not want to take any surgeries in Bulgaria and he was not about to wait, I guess, I don't know, man, 30 days before his ear fixes itself up so that he could fly from Bulgaria. The train tickets, as I mentioned before, it would cost it like 6 times more to get the train. It would be a complete hassle, and he didn't want to do that. He was probably pretty weirded out by the whole Bulgaria Varna situation. He did call his mother. He was acting weird, so maybe he was, during that time when he was staying at that cheap color hotel, maybe he was like testing out the drugs that he got, the illegal substance, and it really messed him up. But he was like, yo, this stuff works, so I'll just take some more of it tomorrow when I fly. And he took some more of that stuff, but it turned out to be more than he, the effects were probably a little bit stronger, but this is all speculation, of course. So maybe he has a reaction in the airport, like he sees like that officer coming inside the medical doctors, I guess, I don't know, man, place. He was like, even though he was a construction guy, he was like, oh my god, this guy has a uniform on. He's like, he's the police. Let's dodge. Then he attempts to break the world record for like 100-meter dash. He fails. He realizes that didn't happen. He was like, I need to take a walk right now. And then he walks down out of the, I guess, I don't know, man, airport, all messed up, and he was like, never to be seen again. So maybe he got really into some, I don't know, man, maybe the progression of his like mental state was kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then there are alleged sightings where he like climbed a barbed wire fence into the forest, and maybe there the drugs culminated in him overdosing, or like him getting like stuck somewhere and dying from exposure. I really think that he died in the forest somewhere around Varna airport. So this is like the theory that I'm going with like the strongest. But the other theory is a pretty crazy theory I found online. I didn't come up with this. This was I found it online. It was that him and his friends were actually involved in drug trafficking or wanted to make some money. Then his friends actually went back to Germany with the drugs the day prior, and he stayed there to like, I don't know, man, to not cause any suspicion. Maybe there was something logistically made him stay. Maybe he had to pay like the drug dealers or something. It's, first of all, it's pretty stupid to traffic drugs with airplanes in Europe because of the security checks. But maybe they had a good plan. I don't know, man. So this is another story. His friends were drug traffickers. They trafficked the drugs to Germany. He stayed back for some reason, and then he just, I don't know, vanished because like maybe like the drug dealers in Bulgaria found him, did something to him. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna go into that theory. Maybe it has merit. I'm not gonna say that it's completely doesn't have any merit. Maybe I haven't really looked into it that much, but it just seems far-fetched to me. One thing before we, I guess, sign out and whatnot, because I feel like we are probably going to be wrapping up soon, right? Before we, I guess, give our last thoughts, he was spotted. He was allegedly spotted not necessarily spotted, but he was given a lift, I believe in 2015, by a truck driver. So no one would ever see Lars Mittank again. However, a truck driver claimed to have given him a ride around April 2015, but this sighting was never officially confirmed. So, someone somewhere allegedly gave him a ride, but I don't buy it. Now, the completely last thing we have to mention is I'm just gonna quickly make the case for where the CCTV footage captured him going. So, right, he goes in, he gets, he runs out. So he's dodging, he's running, he runs out, and as you can see now, he's running towards the parking lot, right? He's running towards the parking lot. Like, look at the direction where he's going right now. He's going from this angle, he's going to the right? You can see him. He's going to the right. Now, if you're gonna look at the map, he runs, I'm pretty sure he runs from this area, right? He runs, I guess, in the west direction, westwards, right? So he runs to the west, and look at this. He's still running, and as you can see, he turns the corner here. Like, you can clearly see there is a corner, and he turns the corner. So where the corner actually leads, it leads back to the I guess landing strip. So I don't know, man. So where is this forest? Where is this forest that he went to? Because it's a whole bunch of work to get on foot to this forest, if you know what I mean. Like to the to other part of like the river, or is this like a canal? It's a whole bunch of work because there is no forest around the Varna airport. Like, where is this forest? These forests? Maybe it was these forests. I don't know, man. Like, it seems like it just seems like a lot of work to get to the forest unnoticed, or like without getting stopped by the police when you're high as hell, So that's like the ending thing that I'm gonna say that's also interesting. So we can definitely not say for sure what happened to Lars Mittank, but I feel like he did take something for the ear pain, and he took either too much of that substance, or he actually OD'd, or it was like a bad substance, So that's what I'm gonna be leaning towards here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's so strange. It just always makes you wonder. But then we look like, what was it? The Brian Schaefer case? Was that which one it was? The one where the guy disappeared from that bar.
It was the Brian Schaefer case, yeah.
Yeah, which in like a much smaller area, or the Kaylee Anthony case where, just this little park, so a dead body was laying there for months and nobody noticed. Yeah, I mean, it seems totally plausible that it's so strange because like we're kind of used to like the idea that it's impossible to go missing without all this physical evidence, and even like it's interesting because now you would think with just even the 6 years since he's been gone, since Lars has disappeared, there's just even more security cameras and web cameras and things like that out there, where maybe like if it had happened now, maybe there would be other cameras that we could try to triangulate where he went. But it just seems so weird. Like, where could he have gone? And then airport's a pretty dangerous place, so you think, but it's also a very noticeable place where, like, if you try to walk around an airport, like if you don't have, if you're not supposed to be there, people notice and they start to ask questions. But then, every once in a while, someone sneaks aboard an airplane or inside an airplane and just, falls out and dies somewhere and nobody knows about it. I don't know. It's pretty weird stuff.
Right. Well, he was spotted by some, the CCTV footage is not like the last sighting of him. That's just like the last captured sighting of him. Like, he went somewhere towards some forest and he climbed a barbed wire fence, and that's the last sighting that's confirmed. Wow. So the last confirmed sighting is of him doing some crazy stuff, So So I don't know, man. I don't know. So yeah, we're just gonna leave it there. We can't know for sure what happened here. I don't know, man. Before we sign out, anything you want to mention? Now, I'm gonna say that I'm sure, since this is gonna be a Lars Smithank case on YouTube and everywhere else, we're gonna put this up. I'm sure we're gonna have some Germans looking at this podcast eventually, and they're probably gonna have their own thoughts about what happened to Lars. So I would really like to hear from maybe like the German speakers who probably have some, who could do better research because they understand German, and a lot of content on this case is in German. Maybe they could like share some light. Maybe we have this completely wrong, maybe we missed like a detail that could literally explain everything. So maybe we don't have these details. So if anyone who's watching this like have those details, please comment them in the YouTube or wherever you can contact us on Instagram and whatever, and leave those theories, because we are really interested in hearing them. So that's all I have, man.
Yeah, same here. And just thanks for listening. We have seen our subscriptions go up even more over the past couple of weeks especially, so we're really happy to see that. And thanks again also to everyone's helpful, kind comments. Your encouragement really helps. Like if you leave a comment, we'll definitely see it and read it and try to respond. And pretty much everybody has been really helpful. And even if you just, get on there to say how much you appreciate the show or what you like, we appreciate the feedback. It really helps, I think, keep us motivated to bring you great content. So thanks once again.
Right. This has been episode 41, and I guess we're gonna be wrapping it up right now. So catch us on episode 42 next week. We'll be recording on our regular schedule. Yeah, my English got like from like 50 to 0 in like 2 minutes. So before I go to minus 50, let's sign out, and let's I can't speak anymore. See us on episode 42 next week, and as always, peace out.